อ I'm a lock in. I'm like selling.
Eu tô chapado, eu tô loucura, eu tô chapado, eu tô chapado, eu tô chapado.
Try to not scam.
City boy, city boy, city boy, city boy, city boy, city boy.
Baby, go.
My neighbor said, if your dog barks one more time, I'm calling animal control. I said, you should probably check your backyard first. 30 seconds later, she screamed. I work from home as a software developer. My neighbor Karen moved in 6 months ago and immediately started complaining about my dog Benson, a 12-year-old golden retriever who barely barks. Last Tuesday, she knocked on my door around noon. Your dog has been barking non-stop for an hour, she snapped. I looked at Benson, asleep on the couch beside me. Karen, he's been inside with me all morning. I know what I heard. If it happens again, I'm calling animal control. She stormed off before I could respond. I went back to work, confused. Benson had been right next to me during my entire morning stand-up meeting. He literally hadn't made a sound. 2 days later, same thing. Aggressive knocking at 11 a.m. Your dog is barking again. This is harassment. Benson was literally at my feet during a Zoom call with my boss. Karen, that's physically impossible. He's right here. You can see him. I turned my laptop screen toward the door to show her the Zoom call still running. Benson visible in the frame. She didn't care. I don't care what tricks you're playing. One more complaint and I'm reporting you to the HOA and animal control. Your dog is a menace. Karen, he's 12 years old. He sleeps 18 hours a day. One more time, she said, pointing her finger at me. One more time. She marched back to her townhouse. That's when I got suspicious. Something wasn't adding up. Benson barely barked even when the doorbell rang. Why would he suddenly be barking for hours when I was literally sitting right next to him? I remembered I had an old security camera from my previous apartment. I set it up in my second floor office window, angling it to just barely capture the corner of Karen's backyard. The next morning around 10 a.m., I heard it. Loud, aggressive barking, deep and powerful, nothing like Benson's gentle woof. I checked the camera feed on my phone. In Karen's backyard was a massive Rottweiler, easily 90 pounds, chained to a metal post in the corner. The chain was maybe 6 feet long, giving the dog barely any room to move. No food bowl visible, no water, no shelter from the sun, just concrete and a rusted chain. The dog was barking frantically at a squirrel on the fence. I'd never seen this dog before, not once in 6 months. I watched for another 20 minutes. The dog kept barking. Karen never came outside to check on it. The barking finally stopped when the dog just gave up and laid down, panting in the direct sunlight. I felt sick. I immediately called animal control and sent them the footage. I explained the situation, the false accusations, the timestamps, everything. They said they'd send an officer to investigate within 24 hours. The next day around 2 p.m., Karen showed up at my door again. Her face was red and she looked furious. If your dog barks one more time, I'm calling animal control. I'm not kidding anymore. I smiled. My neighbor said, if your dog barks one more time, I'm calling animal control. I said, you should probably check your backyard first. 30 seconds later, she screamed. I work from home as a software.
Turn around, turn around, turn around. Like what? Touch the top of your head, top of my head, top of my head. I'm gonna make you guys believe me. Touch your forehead, forehead, forehead. What? Ninja. What was that? Like what?
Heard your hood outside.
This is not good. I think this is the end.
Yeah, I think this is the end, bro. I think we're dead.
My name is Andrew Dingus.
Oh, shitings.
He's coming back!
You good, bro? You crying?
I'm the MVP, like I'm Curry or LeBron. James Harden, how I'm traveling for fun. Tour posters, but I never did a dunk. I'm the MVP, like I'm Curry or LeBron. No rings, I'm just young. James Harden, how I'm traveling for fun. Tour posters.
This is day one of trying to become.
I'm stylish. Black top, big t-shirt, Billy.
I gave you smack, dude.
Tell me, baby, do you want to? If he's cheating, I'm doing him worse.
My best friend Islas texted me a message. Pretend you're my secret lover. Send my husband this picture and tell him the baby is yours. Time to call it quits. Attached was an image, a pregnancy test with 2 bold, undeniable pink lines. A wild plan, but Isla was desperate. Her husband, Caspian, refused to grant her a divorce, clinging to their loveless union while his heart clearly belonged to his childhood sweetheart. So, I copied the image, opened my burner account, and typed out the nuclear option. The baby in her belly is mine. Let her go. My finger hovered over the send button. My own husband, Ronan Whitlock, was a notorious tyrant in our social circle, a man who reportedly despised deceit above all else. Messing with a man like that, even if it was Isla's husband, gave me a shiver of anxiety. I took a deep breath, tapped the screen, and sent Isla's life into a controlled demolition. Or so I thought. A question mark appeared in the chat window. Almost instantly, I frowned. Caspian's English was usually better than that. I typed back, my fingers flying with feigned arrogance. Can't read? She's pregnant with my child. We've been together for over a year. Be a man and sign the papers. The reply was instantaneous. No, my jaw tightened. Then get ready to be a stepfather. I waited. 30 minutes crawled by with no response. I sent a screenshot to Isla. Packed up my things at the office, and headed home. The moment I stepped through the door and flicked on the lights, a jolt of shock shot through me. Ronan Whitlock was sitting on the sofa. He sat in the semi-darkness, his long legs crossed, his face a mask of thunderous silence. His dark, piercing eyes sliced through the dim light and locked onto me, but his lips remained a thin, unforgiving line. This was wrong. This was deeply, fundamentally wrong. In the entire year of our marriage of convenience, Ronan had never come home before midnight. It was 6 in the evening. What was he doing here? I opened my mouth to ask, but before a sound could escape, a bizarre, shimmering line of text scrolled across my vision, like a live comment on a streaming video. The female side character is finally satisfied, huh? Trying to test the male lead with a fake pregnancy test? And she even pretends it was a mistake. She really thinks he'll care. Another one followed. This will do nothing but humiliate her. And another. Oh, it'll do something. It'll solidify her role as the resident, female side character. Did I send the pregnancy test to the male lead, Ronan? I snatched my phone from my purse, my hands trembling as I checked the chat history. There it was. The recipient of my dramatic declaration wasn't Caspian Davies. It was Ronan Whitlock, my husband. In a blind panic, I fumbled to send a new message, this time to Isla. Isla, I'm screwed. I sent the text to my husband, not yours. Who are you texting? Ronan's voice, low and laced with ice, cut through the air. I took a shaky breath, watching his tall, intimidating frame rise from the sofa. I was trembling, but I forced a mask of indifference. No one important. Didn't we agree not to meddle in each other's private lives when we got married? I'm going to take a shower. The moment I closed the bedroom door behind me, I felt like a drowning person gasping for air. I immediately sent another text to Isla. I've decided to get a divorce with you. We'll find a place to raise our kids together. You can be the mom, and I'll be the dad. The shimmering comments, the script as I was starting to call it, began to scroll again. This female side character is so pathetic. She says she wants a divorce, but she's dying for his attention, this marriage was just a family obligation. The male lead's heart will always belong to the poor scholarship girl, Audrey. The script had told me about her. Ronan had been sponsoring Audrey Marsh since middle school, a quiet, brilliant girl from a poor background. He'd spent over $5 million on her education, right up to her graduate studies abroad. But this was, according to the script, a strong female lead story. Audrey, in her quest for independence, had told Ronan not to be a lovesick puppy and to wait for her. A year ago, I'd gotten drunk at a hotel gala and stumbled into Ronan's room. The next morning, our families were at the door, their faces a mixture of shock and glee at the sight of the disheveled bed. Ronan's grandfather had sealed our fate on the spot. She claims she stumbled in by accident? LOL. She totally set him up, playing the innocent victim after getting exactly what she wanted, forcing him to marry her in front of everyone, that's why he never comes home early. He can't stand the sight of her, and she doesn't know, does she? The male lead's abs are for Audrey's eyes only, for her touch only. I stared at the ghostly words, a bitter taste in my mouth. It was true. Ronan flinched whenever I got too close. Ever since we got married, except for that one night at the hotel. And that other time, 2 months ago, when I got drunk again, a shame. I had no memory of either event. All I had were hazy, late-night daydreams of what his abs might have felt like. On impulse, I opened a city app and navigated to the most luxurious spa I could find. I booked the $2,999 Seraphim's Touch spa package, and then, just despite the script in my head, I added a note, and please, arrange for 10 of your best male models to attend. If I couldn't have his abs, I'd just have to buy some. After my shower, I put on my war paint, smoky eyes, red lips, the works. I squeezed into a leather skirt, pulled on a pair of black stockings, and tied my hair into high pigtails. As I was pulling on my knee-high boots, a wave of nausea washed over me, so intense the room started to spin. Was I really that excited about the 10 male models? Was my brain short-circuiting from a lack of oxygen? I braced myself against the wall, and the script flickered back to life. Here we go again. The fake nausea routine. She sees the male lead is home and she can't wait to throw herself at him, OMG, it's working. The male lead is actually walking over. She's going to seize this opportunity. I forced myself to look up. Ronan was striding toward me, his shadow falling over my slumping form. He looked down at me, his expression unreadable. Not feeling well? Fine. I managed to choke out, covering my mouth. I tried to sidestep him, to escape, but the vertigo was overwhelming. My hand shot out blindly, grabbing for purchase. It found his tie. My fingers tightened, and my other hand flailed, landing squarely on his abdomen. Hard. The script was scrolling faster now, a frantic blur. My hand, of its own volition, slid lower, my fingers curling around the waistband of his trousers. And then, the world went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Ronan sat beside me, his face grim, a storm brewing in his dark eyes. But the doctor was beaming at me. Congratulations, Ms. St. Claire. You're 9 weeks pregnant. You need to take better care of yourself. If Mr. Whitlock Sr. knew about this, he'd be over the moon. My mouth fell open. Pregnant? I was pregnant. The drive home was a blur of anxiety. I frantically texted my best friend. Isla, I'm in deep trouble. Where are you? I'm coming to find you. Answer your phone. I sent message after message, my thumbs flying across the screen. In another window, I searched for escape routes out of the country. The moment Ronan's car stopped in front of the villa, I bolted upstairs, opened my laptop, and began researching divorce procedures. After an hour of frantic legal jargon, Isla finally called. Her voice was hoarse. Penelope, what happened? What kind of trouble? I laid it all out for her, the whole sordid mess of the past 2 days. I'm a damn good architect, I declared, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and bravado. After the divorce, I'll move abroad. I'll work hard and I'll support you and the baby. Isla and I had grown up in the same circles, starting out as rivals. But in high school, when my family's business teetered on the brink of bankruptcy and the bullies swarmed, it was Isla who stood up for me. We've been inseparable ever since. But, is Ronan just going to give up like that? Isla asked cautiously. The script flickered to life. She's so stubborn. She's madly in love with the male lead but still has to pretend to be aloof. Is pretending all she knows how to do, she's been obsessed with him since high school. There's no way she'd give up this easily. I gripped the phone tighter, a lump forming in my throat. I did love Ronan. I loved him so much. The summer after our senior year of high school, the class president had pushed me into a muddy drainage ditch near the country club. I only pursued you because your family was rich, he sneered. Now you're just a pathetic loser, and you still have the nerve to reject me. He was going to leave me there, covered in filth, unless I agreed to be his girlfriend. That's when Ronan appeared. He pulled me out of that ditch, my clothes soaked and stinking, and didn't even flinch. He stayed with me while I filed a police report. He made sure that boy apologized to me in front of the entire school. He was a beam of light in my darkest, most depressing moment. And I've been chasing that light ever since. We've already slept together. I got what I wanted, I said, forcing a brittle laugh. Besides, you're my real baby. Being with you is the only time I'm truly happy. Imagine us, two hot moms with a stroller, turning heads at Whole Foods. The more I talked, the more I hyped myself up. Unlike Ronan, I never see him. What's the use of being handsome and having a great body if he never uses it? I let out a cold, sharp laugh. Twice a year. He's all show and no go. The divorce can't come soon enough. Asterisk crash. Asterisk something shattered behind me. I whirled around. Ronan stood in